and welcome to the half-an-hour special of the Hindustan University presents TimesAscent HR Forum. With one of the youngest populations in the world and a large pool of young, English-speaking people, population demographics favor India. Despite this, a majority of the young population has not been able to realize its demographic dividend, as a majority of them are unemployable. Now, this is mainly due to the scarcity of skilled manpower. To address this and to find solutions to how the power of youth can be harnessed better for India Inc. to take the big leap, a full-day event, TimesAscent HR Forum, was held in Chennai recently. This year's theme of the Hindustan University presents TimesAscent HR Forum was India Tomorrow, Youth Today, harnessing the power of youth. The event was attended by dignitaries and industry stalwarts from across the country. The HR Forum was an opportunity for India Inc. to discuss people's strategies for the future and to get a clearer perception on the challenges of managing tomorrow's workforce. The inaugural session saw industry professionals sharing their insights on the theme.
The theme of today's HR Forum is India Tomorrow, Youth Today, Harnessing the Power of Youth. We all know that today India is blessed with this demographic advantage of having more than 550 million youth. Today, India is the most youthful nation on this globe. When every other nation is aging, India is still youthful and will have this advantage for the next 20 years. But the biggest challenge to this country is to channelize, direct this youth power to generate wealth and to make this country economically powerful. In order to do that, we need to enable and empower the youth of this country. In order to generate the wealth required to distribute to all the poor of this country, we have to train all the youth and translate that power into an economic power. We need to channelize all the energy to generate the wealth required for alleviating the poverty of this country. With this, once again, I have great pleasure in welcoming you all, and I'm sure that we'll have the strategies designed, developed, charted out, and we will be able to provide this country ways and means to harness the power of the youth of this country. Thank you.
Times Group takes immense pride in organizing one of its kind HR forum. Goes without saying that India is a young country, definitely not when I look myself in the mirror, but yes, the opportunities for all of you are immense. With the economic growth that we're really having and the kind of a talent shortage the world is facing, I think all of you stand a great chance to have a much stronger career starting at an ease than probably when we started our careers. But yes, you probably may need to understand what you're looking for, what are the opportunities, and how can you be ready for your next big career to make a maximum out of it. And all the speakers, industry experts over here would really be, I think, delighted to share their experiences and insights, how to harness the best, the expertise of the youth to really make our country one of the most successful in the world. Okay. Thank you with this particular note, and before I really go, let me take this opportunity to introduce you to our program chairperson today. So Mr. CVK Mehtra.
Ladies and gentlemen and dignitaries on and off the stage, I must first congratulate Hindustan College of Engineering and the Times of India for this rather interesting initiative, bringing industry and the academia together. There have been some very interesting things that have happened in the last few years. And the first is better CSR awareness, both at the corporate level and in terms of individual initiative and involvement. You see a lot of this, and the Chennai floods were a good example where there were more volunteers, as the army said, than victims, which is very good. Then there is greater attention to environmental as well as human rights and animal rights issues, which was not so much before. Then direct activism in matters of corruption. There's a lot of anti-corruption activism which replaced a sense of passive acceptance. This is the youth of today and tomorrow. Then, when I was talking with people like Aruna Padmanabhan, she said she's come back from the US. So it is the reverse brain drain has already started with people who are in the prime of life coming back to India and working here for the sake of this great country. Then the final and the most powerful of all these, using social media for human transformation. Sometimes even for political transformation like the Tahrir Square in Egypt, but today even in India, social media is being extensively used to create awareness. Finally, I'd like to say that the solutions to these problems lie in the orientation of our youth on matters of quality and ethics right from their childhood. Second, the examples we set as elders, and then our mature and proactive handling of global competition. Ladies and gentlemen, we have some very interesting speakers, and I would like to first introduce our chief guest, Mr. D. Peter Emmanuel.
I thank the organizers, Hindustan University, and the Times Group for giving me this opportunity. I'm really honored to be here. What is skill? Briefly, what is skill? How is skill different from knowledge? Knowledge is what we have up here. But skill is how you use your knowledge to do something productive, to contribute something to the society, to the nation. It's action-oriented skill. So what is the need for skill development? I will just briefly touch upon the need for skill development in India. After a period of rapid growth, Indian companies, Indian economy have stagnated. Growth has stagnated. In system dynamics, we call growth has been inhibited by limiting factors. Now we have to identify what are these limiting factors and eliminate them so that we go into the next orbit of growth. I strongly feel the most important limiting factor is the lack of skilled manpower, lack of systematic and methodical skill development or training, no policies, no procedures, very ad hoc, no systematic induction training, no upskilling, no reskilling. There is plenty of scope for improvement in this area. But the good news is, Government of India is aware of this and has decided to step in to bridge this gap. That's the good news. In conclusion, I would like to say, having seen where India was just a few decades ago and where we are now, I can say we have a bright future. The youth of the present generation are smart, innovative, ambitious, and enterprising. They're bubbling with confidence. So therefore, let us join hands together, everybody, industry, academia, youth, and overcome these challenges and build a better India. Thank you. Wish you all good luck.
Raghu, may I invite you to give your talk?
I'm just going to tell you a few stories because I tried gazing into the crystal ball, especially of HR futures, and I saw nothing. Yeah, I'll tell you why. The first story is about a young person called Michelle Fa. She's about 24 years old, and what she does for a living is every week she uploads a video, 10-minute video on YouTube. The color is largely light pink. And what she's doing there is teaching people how to wear mascara, how to put on face masks and whatever things. And she is the richest 25-year-old on the globe. And why is that? Because once she started putting this up, she has a 5 million and odd followership. So advertising today has nothing to do with television, especially of cosmetics. It has all to do with Michelle Pfau. The interesting thing about Michelle Pfau is if you look at her videos, I'm quite certain that she doesn't know that more fruit is used for cosmetics than is available for eating today. And she probably wouldn't care. And then there's the familiar story of what happened in Tamil Nadu and particularly in Chennai, where we saw some very interesting things. We saw floods, which Javadekar immediately turned around and said has nothing to do with climate change. And 2 days after that in Paris, they were jumping around the place, explaining what they had said. And we saw two things happening simultaneously. One thing that we saw happening was phenomenal response, especially from young people. And it happened because of internet, it happened because of WhatsApp, and it happened because of humanness. My belief is that we are at an inflection point. And inflection points are strange things. And inflection points are places where to ask the question, what's the right thing to do, gives you extreme choices. Each of you has to make this choice. I'm happy I won't be there to see the choices you make, but I hope you make the right choices. Thank you.
It's time for a short break, but there are more insightful sessions coming up on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching the special highlights episode of Hindustan University presents TimesAscent HR Forum. An MBA degree gives you an edge over the others in this competitive world. With so many educational institutions offering MBA degrees, Dr. Smriti Verma tells us what sets the MBA course offered by the Hindustan University apart from the rest.
School of Management is, along with the collaborative pedagogy that we have, which includes case studies, symposiums, webinars, industrial visits, live projects, etc. We have industrial exposure, which is a compulsory activity for all the students, and it's intertwined in the curriculum of the MBA program, wherein we have MOUs with plenty of foreign universities, to name Dongkuk universities, Korea, SIAS University, China, Open University of Malaysia, to name a few. Our students are required to do projects and summer internships in these kind of universities.
So the HR Forum also conducted a students' workshop titled, How Employable Are You? The workshop saw students interacting actively with the moderators of the session. Its motive was to help students evaluate how industry ready they were.
Thank you so much.
India has one of the youngest populations in the world, yet a vast majority of the population is unemployable due to lack of skills. The first of the three panel discussions, titled Skilling the Young India, discussed in detail the need for India's youth to become skilled. Take a look.
I think the biggest takeaway for the panel discussion was it's not what skilling is important, but the importance of reskilling and upskilling to make sure you're contemporary and the fact that you're relevant and your employability keeps going, especially given the fact that we're entering what you call the VUCA world. I think that was a key takeaway from this entire session.
So this was about skilling young India. So the entire idea was to find out what is it that the youth really want at this point in time, what are organizations doing, how do we ensure that we reskill and upskill the youth, and how do we build a culture. It was also about ensuring that what is the culture that the organization is doing, because today we want to include women. So inclusion and diversity is a big agenda. So is things like LGBT who are coming into the workforce, and the differently abled. So that's one bit. So that was one theme. The second theme was also about understanding how the academia and the corporate need to connect, and how do we ensure that the learning curve is shortened for the students who are coming in. The third bit was around the VUCA world, and how do we ensure that people are trained to understand what is coming in, and what is it that they need to do to skill themselves to face the challenges, and how it is necessary to have the right kind of attitude when they come into the organization.
It was very interesting for me to do this panel with a couple of my colleagues in the industry. The trends on diversity, what we are doing, it helped me to share what we are doing vis-a-vis what my colleagues are doing in their companies. So it was it's a big takeaway for me.
I think and inviting the corporates to this kind of scenarios, it's very important and critical that universities know what is the corporate expectations. And the takeaway from me is that this university made a huge progress, started in '94, and a huge students base across the globe coming to this organization, and we can find out a diversified workforce in Hindustan University. And it's a good kickstart by Times of India. I think they need to do more in this kind of things, the collaboration to bring the corporates and the educationists together, so that they can prepare the young youth. What is our future?
Watching top HR executives of India Inc. speak on topics such as skilling India gives us a more realistic picture of the current scenario. It's time for a short break, but there's more on the other side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching the special episode of Hindustan University presents TimesAscent HR Forum. The next topic of concern in the HR fraternity is managing the millennial. The second panel discussion in the HR Forum saw a panel moderated by Shefali Mohapatra, a millennial herself. The panel discussed topics ranging from traits to look for in young talent while hiring them to ways to keep them motivated in their workplace. Take a look.
The millennials, unlike the Gen Y, are not waiting for action to happen. They are not armchair critiques. A lot of them are actually the ones who start the movement. They are not very okay with accepting things that are not supposed to happen, and lots of examples we have seen in the media as well. Third takeaway is that there are the millennials also need to understand, they need to shift a little bit, and I think as education institutes and corporates we need to do our bit as well. They have to move on from what is in it there for me mode to how do I contribute mode.
So this millennials are the people who were born between 1980 and 2000. So they have that passion and the willingness to go and get things done. At the same time, the company also expects few things from those millennials, right? And they're very important because they are actually forming 70% of the global workforce by 2030. So how do we train them and get them, align them to the corporate strategy is very much important. So that's why we are here. Hindustan University, they have about 3,000 students here, and all of them are going to be part of this 2030 workforce. So how do we help these universities in training these students to be part of this workforce is very much important.
I think like any other generation, there are generational gaps, and it's kind of wrong to say that millennials are different. Of course they are different. They are as different as my generation was from my parents and theirs was from there. Having said that, one of the things that one of the fellow panelists pointed out was very interesting, that Part of it is also because of the fact that from a socio-emotional perspective, this generation is most provided, whether it is their access to technology, whether it is connectivity, or even the fact that how safe I feel, from an economic perspective or from a financial perspective. So that has really shaped its constitution, the psychological constitutions. The other important thing is that there are certain age-old ethics which are so very relevant in spite of the generation one belongs to. Hard work, discipline, loyalty, longevity, having a long-term view, and ability to be persistent towards your goals is going to be a key thing.
Everybody seems to be talking about the trend in vogue as to how do we manage millennials, because you will find more and more job seekers coming in from this age group, and it's absolutely imperative that you understand how you manage them, how you handle them, and how you understand their needs, how you align your people agenda, your strategy according to it. So I think a lot of thoughts came up from this, and to me the panel was diverse. You had somebody from the telecom sector, you had somebody from IT, I represented auto, and somebody represented the consulting. So different perspectives on the same topic helps knowledge enrichment happens.
Creating young leaders.
The last panel discussion of the Hindustan University presents TimesAscent HR Forum focused on creating young leaders to lead from the front. The discussion saw industry experts come up with solutions to successfully create young leaders to lead their organizations. It also discussed the various challenges India Inc. faces to attain the same.
The number of people that we hire as from the colleges, their competence is the same. The skill set is almost the same. It really actually, it's more of a filtering process that you say, so much of CGPA, and it's okay. I mean, you have a cutoff. You need to have a cutoff other than that. But will this guy fit into my culture is more important, And if you have a great culture, and that's what leaders do, that they create a culture in the organization which drives the organization forward.
Whether you are in employment or entrepreneur, there are many attributes which are common to both. Say, for example, listening skills, or to look at the problems in a very emotionally stable manner, and not to be cowed down by the failures that may come in your way. So these attributes, these characteristics are in any way common whether you are going to be an entrepreneur or going to be an employed person. So to what extent the millennial is equipped to have these characteristics developed in them. That's one point that came very strongly in this panel discussion. Emotional quotient.
It was an interesting panel. We talked about helping young people to become leaders in organizations. It's wonderful to deal with young people. They are very talented. They are very multi-talented. Especially when you compare with the earlier generation. But the earlier generation should give the young ones the opportunity and give them the way so that the young ones get a chance to lead. But the point is, if we don't give that chance to these young people in the organization, they will find the chance elsewhere. We are dealing with very bright people, we are dealing with passionate people, we are dealing with single-minded people. They will achieve their goals irrespective of whether you give it or not. So it's better for the elder ones like us to give that so that we are in a better place.
It's very important to connect the youth of today with the leading industrialists, with the leading organizations in our country. So this is part of their development, that they interact with the experts and hear about the organizations in which they're going to work. It's mandatory because there are certain things we can't offer in the curriculum, so it's very important that they have this interaction. And today was an excellent forum for interacting with the HR professionals from across the country. So it was quite useful for that.
Hindustan University presents TimesAscent HR Forum was an absolute hit with the HR fraternity and the students. The HR professionals took back home a great amount of knowledge on various topics discussed in the forum, and the students learnt a great deal about making themselves industry ready. I hope you too have gained some insights and knowledge regarding how to utilize and optimize India's demographic dividend. This brings us to the end of the show. Goodbye and thanks for watching.